Hello everyone. If you like this audiobook and want to listen to more, please consider subscribing. And if you like this video, like it as well, that it enjoy.
66. The shocking truth hidden behind the plane crash. Shocking truth hidden behind the Flight 37 disaster. Homelander was on the plane. Who is telling the truth and who is lying? Is the girl's story believable? Vought faces its worst crisis ever. The day after the girl woke up, the entire American media lost its mind. Clickbait headlines flooded every platform. An angry mob had already surrounded Vought Tower, even bigger than last time. Their banners were brutal: Homelander, murderer of 122 passengers. Vought, hand over Homelander and give us the truth. Queen Maeve, speak the fuck up. Inside Vought Tower, Madeline called an emergency meeting. Everyone from the Seven showed up except the Deep. This situation is critical. None of you are to say a single word to the press. Especially you two, she said, looking at Homelander and Maeve. You stay out of sight. Ashley will handle all PR moving forward. As long as the black box stays missing, we can keep questioning everything that little girl says. Sorry, I'm not feeling well, Maeve muttered, standing up to leave. Maeve, Homelander's voice was ice cold. Sit down. She hesitated, then slowly sank back into her chair. In 1 week Vought is hosting a charity gala called Samaritan's Embrace. This is your chance to win back the public, Madeline said, handing out briefing packets. When she reached Homelander, he didn't take it. He was staring at his Twitter feed, scrolling through endless hate comments under his latest post. Every refresh cost him another 100,000 followers. His face looked completely empty. Meeting adjourned, Madeline said quietly. Once everyone else left, she stepped over and pulled Homelander's head against her chest, stroking his hair like a mother. Don't worry, baby, this will blow over soon. This morning Greaves gave me a solid idea. We'll pay big money to bury the news cycle with celebrity scandals. Once those stories explode, nobody will care about some plane crash. As long as the black box never surfaces, people will forget. You'll still be their hero. Their one and only Homelander. Homelander opened his eyes and looked straight at her. And what if the black box does show up? Madeline kept stroking his hair like he was a scared little boy. It won't. I won't let it see the light of day. Homelander seemed to understand exactly what she meant. He closed his eyes again and leaned into her touch, soaking it up. Over the next few days, the entertainment world exploded with fresh scandals one after another. The internet ate it up. With the black box still missing and Ashley's PR machine working overtime, a new narrative started spreading like wildfire. The traumatized little girl had been obsessed with Homelander. She'd hallucinated seeing him on the plane right before she almost died. Reporters even dug up stacks of Homelander photos and DVDs from her old place. Proof she was a huge fan. Homelander's diehard stans ate that shit up and ran with it. Ivan sat in his office scrolling through the raging online fights and smirked. The Flight 37 story was dead in the water. The only way it could blow up again was if Vought released what was on the black box. But Madeline and Edgar wouldn't do that. They wanted to control Homelander, not start an all-out war with him. His endorsement deals alone brought in way too much cash every year. Back at the villa after work, Ivan pulled out the last few vials of Compound V and set them on the coffee table. He brought up the system panel. Reinforced self-healing talent fusion, 45%. Too bad Compound V is Vought's highest level secret. Only the VP and CEO can authorize it. Ivan remembered even Homelander didn't have official access. The speedster prick had just stolen his own doses from the vault. So outside of Vought and hospitals, there was really only one other person who might be able to feed him more. Ezekiel, the rubber-bodied, God-fearing supe who ran the Samaritan's Embrace charity. Ivan already knew exactly how to threaten Ezekiel. If memory served, Butcher had a nasty little video of the rubber freak getting fucked by another guy. Get that tape and Ezekiel would have two choices: hand over the Compound V or watch his entire empire of followers, money, fame, and fake holiness go up in smoke. Still, relying on Ezekiel was only a temporary fix. Vought wasn't stupid. They tracked every single vial. A few dozen missing might slip under the radar, but a couple hundred. Someone would notice fast. Before heading back to the villa, Ivan had stopped by Mercy Hospital. The head nurse, Keely Gill, made it clear they could only report a maximum of 20 vials lost or damaged per month. So he'd have to find other sources. By the time he finished sorting his thoughts, the tentacles sprouting from his hands had already sucked up every last drop of compound V on the coffee table. The panel updated. Reinforced self-healing talent fusion, 83%. Ivan had no plans to jump into the next world right after finishing this fusion. He still didn't know if the next one would be as manageable as Parasyte. Better to wait until he fused the next talent before using all worlds travel again. He already had something in mind for the next one. Ivan picked up the ophthalmology textbook from the table and started flipping through it, cross-referencing the diagrams with how his own eyeballs worked. He spent the next few hours experimenting, trying to grow new eyes from scratch. Every single attempt failed. He wasn't in a rush though. The eye was the most complex and delicate organ in the human body. Creating one from nothing wasn't going to happen overnight. It would take hundreds of tries. Still, he couldn't wait for the day he finally nailed it. Full panoramic vision sounded fucking incredible. At least nobody would ever sneak up on him from behind again. 67. Don't worry, he's much more reliable than you. A week later, Ivan got an invite from Starlight and showed up at Ezekiel's Big Faith Expo, the annual Samaritan's Embrace charity gala. Starlight used to come every year as a kid. Back then, the opening night was the highlight of her whole year, the one time she got to see real supes up close instead of just on TV. Hard to believe it's only been a year, Starlight said beside him. Everything feels completely different now. That's normal, Ivan replied as they walked side by side down the gravel path. Only from up high do you see how fucked everything really is. I'd rather go back to being a kid. At least back then people's faith felt real and pure. Now it's all just lies and idiots. Starlight had switched back to her old costume. The reason was pure irony. Vought's own research showed her sexy new suit wasn't pulling in more male fans. Instead, it pissed off a ton of family groups. So they forced her back into the old one. In my opinion, this whole circus never changed. The only thing that changed is you. Sounds pretty deep coming from you. I'm guessing you don't believe in God, Starlight said with a small laugh. Ivan gave a slight nod and smiled. Nope, I only believe in myself. While they chatted, event staff setting up the grounds spotted them and lit up. Hey, Deputy Director Greaves. Morning, sir. Hope you have a great time. You too, man. The worker waved and hurried off. The gala had just started and they still had a mountain of shit to do. Starlight smirked. How come you seem more popular than me around here? Because you can't get them fired. I can. Ivan's deadpan black humor made Starlight burst out laughing. She quickly clamped a hand over her mouth, remembering they were in public. No wonder Ashley's always so popular. Right then, Ivan spotted a familiar face moving through the crowd. Sorry, I need to step away for a bit. No problem. He slipped back to his car, grabbed the change of clothes he'd stashed earlier, and ducked into a quiet corner. After making sure there were no cameras or Homelander's weird radio waves around, he shifted into Yuji's form and headed back into the gala. Butcher and his crew hadn't left. They'd come here specifically to snatch Ezekiel. The package they found in the girl's room made it clear the rubber bastard knew way too much about Vought's dirty secrets. But after scouting the place, Butcher realized the security was airtight. Snatching Ezekiel in the middle of his own fucking event was damn near impossible. While he was still trying to figure out an angle, Ivan appeared right behind him without a sound. The second Ivan's hand touched Butcher's shoulder, Butcher grabbed it and twisted hard, snapping into military CQC. But when Ivan squeezed back, Butcher's bones creaked like they were about to snap. Don't freak out, it's me, I met Huey. You. Butcher let go instantly. He knew damn well the guy who could drop an invisible soup could drop him just as fast. He turned and got his first proper look at Ivan, who was wearing Yuji's face. Average face. Nothing memorable. The kind of guy you'd forget 2 seconds after seeing him. I know you want to ask who I am. Save your breath. It doesn't matter, Ivan said flatly. How the fuck did you find us? Butcher growled. He was even starting to wonder if someone had stuck a tracker up his ass. I know you've got that video that can fuck Ezekiel over. Come with me, I'll take you straight to him. Ivan didn't bother answering the question. He just led Butcher through the crowd until they found Ezekiel up on stage, preaching like a man possessed. The area in front of the stage was packed with Christian believers. You're not seriously thinking of confronting him right here, are you? Butcher muttered. He'll have those armed goons at the gate point their guns at us and call us terrorists trying to blow up the fucking gala. While he spoke, and the rest of the crew quietly moved in closer. Mystery man, Huey said, surprised to see Ivan next to Butcher. Relax. Wait till he finishes his speech. Ivan's eyes never left Ezekiel. The rubber bastard was actually pretty good at this. His voice was magnetic, full of fire. He was selling the idea that supes were God's chosen children, reinforcing their holy status in people's minds while making Vought sound like divine fucking messengers. Why can Homelander fly? Why can a train run so fast? Ezekiel spread his arms wide, right in front of the gasping crowd, both arms stretched like rubber, extending ridiculously long. The believers screamed in delight. How can I embrace the whole world with arms full of love? Why were we chosen? Because of God. Because we were born with His power. Because we believe. The speech killed. The crowd erupted into thunderous applause. Give me the video, Ivan said quietly. I'll get you the intel you want. He pulled out a Diamantire VIP pass that guaranteed a private meeting with Ezekiel. The things cost $15,000 a pop on the open market, but being a Vought executive had its perks. Ivan could grab them whenever he felt like it. Huey pulled out his phone, hesitating as he glanced at Butcher. Ivan saw Butcher give a small nod. Only then did Huey pull up the video on his phone and hand it over. Wait here. Ivan took the phone and headed straight for Ezekiel's private lounge. Watching him walk away, looked uneasy. You sure we can trust that guy? He shows up and vanishes like a ghost. If he screws us over, we'll never find him again. Relax, Butcher said, adjusting his shades. He's more reliable than you lot. On the other side, Ivan used the diamond VIP pass to slip straight into Ezekiel's rest area. Oh, buddy, you picked a terrible time, Ezekiel said while a makeup artist touched up his face. I'm about to head out for a prayer circle. If you don't mind waiting, it'll be about an hour. The so-called prayer circle was just a bunch of people sitting around spilling their problems while Ezekiel gave them bullshit answers in God's name. Classic Vought show. Most of the chosen attendees were $200 an hour actors. 68. Getting good at blackmail. You lot, get out. I need to talk to Mr. Ezekiel here. Important business. Ivan walked up beside Ezekiel and placed the phone on the table right in front of him, video already playing. At first Ezekiel didn't give a shit. As God's so-called messenger, he'd dealt with plenty of crazy fans trying to get his attention. He figured Ivan was just another one. Then he glanced at the screen. The nightclub footage hit him like a truck. His face went bone white. Out. Everybody get the fuck out of this room right now. Ezekiel slammed the phone off and roared at the staff. The confused workers scrambled out without a word. What do you want from me? Ezekiel asked, pulling himself together fast. He was a professional conman. If the guy hadn't leaked the video yet, there was still room to deal. Ivan was getting pretty damn good at this blackmail thing. Compound V, he said flatly. What's that? Never heard of it. Sounds like some new building material. If you're gonna play stupid, then you're useless to me. And useless people tend to have very bad days. Ivan shrugged and turned to leave, phone in hand. Wait, it's coming back to me, Ezekiel called out before Ivan reached the door. Coming back? Huh. Ivan pulled up a chair and sat down with a smug little smile. Let me jog your memory. You're using your precious charity to ship Compound V to hospitals all over the world disguised as vaccines. All that, God's chosen, bullshit. Just lab rats pumped full of V. Ezekiel stared at him like he was staring at a demon. His mind was reeling. Barely 3 people in the whole world knew about this. How the fuck did this random prick know everything? Could he read minds? You want money? Ezekiel tried, sounding hopeful. Money was easy. He could handle money. But the worst thing you worry about is usually exactly what shows up. Hey, I don't need money. Money means jack shit to me. I just want 20 vials of Compound V every week, Ivan said calmly. Shit, you might as well kill me right now. If Vought finds out, I'm dead anyway. Just leak the fucking video. Ezekiel shot up from his chair, acting like he was ready to burn it all down. Ivan just sat there watching the performance, completely unfazed. When Ezekiel realized his little tantrum wasn't working, he deflated like a punctured balloon and dropped back into the seat. Sweat poured down his temples. He looked like a man balanced on a tightrope over hell, no safe direction left. If the public ever found out about Compound V, Ivan said with a slow smile, what do you think Vought would do first? That smile looked straight up demonic to Ezekiel. His body started shaking. He knew exactly what Vought would do, but he couldn't say it out loud. Ivan finished for him. They'd erase every loose end. You'd disappear off the face of the earth. The only proof you ever existed would be fish swimming past your chopped up limbs at the bottom of the ocean. Stop. Fine. I'll do it. 20 vials a week. But you keep your mouth shut, Ezekiel blurted out fast, voice cracking. Ivan smiled. Of course. Everyone I work with knows I keep my word. By the way, today's Monday. I'll take this week's batch now. I don't have it on me. The latest shipment just went to the neonatal ICU at Mercy Hospital, Ezekiel said, shaking his head. Ivan tilted his head. Do I sound like I'm negotiating with you? Or are you about to start bargaining like a fucking market stall? Ivan's smile vanished. His eyes turned ice cold as he stared at Ezekiel. I don't give a fuck how you do it. Steal it from hospitals, report it as lost, whatever. I want that package delivered to me this afternoon. Even Homelander had managed to steal enough Compound V from Vought to create an army of supe terrorists worldwide. A guy like Ezekiel, who actually had official access, could pull it off easily. Of course, Homelander never could have done it so openly without Stan Edgar turning a blind eye. Ezekiel stayed quiet for a long time. Finally, thinking about staying alive and keeping his empire, he gritted his teeth and nodded. I look forward to your delivery. Before leaving, Ivan scribbled down an address on a piece of paper. It was for a random shop 3 or 4 kilometers from his villa. The second Ivan stepped out of the rest area, he spotted Butcher and the crew lurking in the crowd, watching him like nervous spies. A few moments later they pretended to bump into him by accident. Ivan didn't call them out. He simply pulled out the phone and handed it back to Huey. Ezekiel admitted everything. He's been shipping Compound V disguised as vaccines through his charity to hospitals all over the world. Latest batch went to the neonatal ICU at Mercy Hospital. I'll go with you tomorrow when I get the word. Stay ready. He had to keep his word with Butcher's crew too. Fair's fair. First come, first served. And keep this quiet. Big secrets only hit hardest when you drop them at the perfect moment. With that, Ivan turned and walked straight out of the gala. He couldn't give less of a shit about the closing speech by the special guest. Starlight wasn't going to accuse the Deep of sexual assault like in the original timeline anyway. The whole incident never happened, so she'd suffered a lot less. Congratulations, player. You have slightly altered the original plotline and earned 200 fantasy points. 69. Homelander's creepy smile, speechless A-Train. Ivan Greaves pulled up to the villa and killed the engine. He gave a quick nod to the 3 workers still filling the new pool. All 3 were polite and worked fast. Ivan paid even faster. Boss, the water's all set. Any problems, just call us. We'll be here within a day, one of them said, grinning as he took the thick stack of bills. Once they drove off, Ivan stripped down to swim trunks and dove straight into the pool. The second his skin hit the water, a pair of eyes snapped open right below his collarbone, near the base of his neck. The new eyeballs moved around, bright and curious like baby birds checking out the world for the first time. When they closed, they left nothing but 2 faint lines on his skin. After days of trial and error, this was the best he'd managed. Building a working eye was a pain in the ass, so he'd only grown 1 pair so far. At least they could pop up anywhere on his body he wanted. He'd tried making them even better, but they never synced perfectly with the rest of him. He'd have to wait until he fused the right talent later. Late that night, Ivan shifted into Yuji's form, picked up the delivery from the shop, and brought the package of 20 Compound V vials back to the villa. He absorbed 3 of them on the spot. The panel updated. Reinforced self-healing talent fusion, 100%. The next day, in the Seven's private meeting room at Vought Tower, Homelander stood with his hands behind his back, staring out over all of Manhattan. A savage gust of wind ripped through the room as A-Train blurred to a stop in the doorway. Well, Homelander didn't turn around, just glanced sideways. A few days earlier he'd learned Kimiko had escaped the dungeon. The only people who knew its location besides him and A-Train were Popclaw. So the rat was obvious. Heroin overdose, A-Train said. Didn't make it. Homelander gave a small nod, satisfied. That's good to hear. Sad, though, what about the Compound V? She told a couple people, so I thought. Homelander cut him off and turned around. No, I'm talking about you. Come on, man, A-Train started. You've been hitting that shit hard for weeks. You really thought I wouldn't notice? A-Train saw that creepy fucking smile and started backpedaling fast. I stopped, bro, I swear I stopped. You sure? I'm clean. Completely off it, Homelander didn't push it, he dragged a chair over and sat down. You really stepped in it this time, kid. But you did the right thing coming to me. I'm proud of you. A-Train felt the heavy weight lift off his chest. He'd made the right call killing Popclaw. Thanks, Homelander. Really, I appreciate the chance. He smiled and turned to leave. Hey, not so fast. Come here. Homelander stood up with a warm, fatherly smile and opened his arms. We're a team. We're family. A-Train forced a grin and stepped in for the hug. I've always got your back. Always. Remember that. The crushing pressure hit instantly. A-Train felt his ribs creak like they were about to snap. He could barely breathe, but he kept smiling like everything was fine. Homelander finally let go. For a second there A-Train had actually thought the bastard might kill him. He was just about to walk out when Homelander called him back again. A-Train swallowed hard. That missing Asian girl. I'll find her, he said. He knew the mess wasn't over. Only by tracking down everyone Popclaw had talked to could he finally breathe easy. He went straight to her apartment and tore the place apart. After ripping open a teddy bear, he found the hidden camera. It was the exact same model Huey sold in his shop. He pulled out the hard drive, plugged it in, and watched the whole thing. Popclaw playing cop and robber with her landlord. Then the part where she gave him a massive green hat. And finally, the part where she sat on the landlord's face with her dripping pussy and killed him while orgasming. Quote. A-Train's face twisted with rage. No wonder she'd dodged his questions. She'd been cheating on him the whole time. Fucking bitch, he spat at the screen. Every last scrap of guilt he'd felt for killing her vanished on the spot. He took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. At the end of the footage, he saw the intruders. One guy's face was crystal clear. A-Train froze the frame, took a screenshot, and headed straight to Vought Tower's crime analytics department. The system matched the face immediately. Frenchie. Meanwhile, Frenchie had no idea his face was now in Vought's system. How's the taste? He asked softly. Butcher's crew had noticed Kimiko only calmed down around Frenchie, so they left him in charge of looking after her in the safehouse basement. He used whatever scraps were left in the fridge to cook her proper meals, treating her like his own daughter. Kimiko still hadn't spoken, but Frenchie could see the tiny responses in her eyes. On the other side of town, Butcher's phone buzzed with a text from Ivan. Meet at the hospital in 30 minutes. Half an hour later, Butcher and him pulled up outside Mercy Hospital just as Ivan came walking up the sidewalk. Just you two? Ivan asked, eyeing Butcher in his black coat and him already wearing a leather jacket like Autumn had already hit. Smaller group, smaller target. Three's perfect. Getting inside the hospital was easy. Just sign in at the front desk. None of them used real names. They scribbled down whatever bullshit came to mind. The nurse barely glanced at the forms before going back to scrolling on her phone. The hallways inside were long, narrow, and maze-like. The place felt less like a hospital and more like somewhere you'd get lost on purpose. Wait, we're looking for the neonatal ICU. Most of these rooms are just regular patients, Butcher muttered, checking every door plaque. Left up ahead, then straight, Ivan said suddenly. How the fuck do you know that? Whispered. Relax, man. You look like you're here to steal organs, Butcher muttered. Tone it down or everyone's gonna spot us. 70. My blue laser eyes. Soon, under Ivan's lead, the three of them reached a heavy steel door. A sign on the right clearly read Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. Ivan had already picked up the faint soup radio waves coming from inside. The problem was the thick security door needed a keycard. Butcher pulled one out of his pocket and slapped it against the reader. Beep. The door slid open. Black Market Tech, Butcher said with a grin, waving the card. He pushed inside first. Medical machines filled the dim blue-lit room, but it was still easy to see. Butcher scanned the place and spotted it, a bag of Compound V hanging above one of the incubators, feeding straight into a tiny baby through a tube. What the fuck is Vought doing? Butcher pressed his hands against the glass, leaning in for a closer look. The baby's eyes snapped open. Sizzle. Two bright blue laser beams shot out of its pupils. Butcher jumped back like he'd been electrocuted. Luckily the special glass on the incubator stopped the beams cold. Jesus Christ. Those Vought cunts are experimenting on fucking newborns. They're out of their goddamn minds. Between the Compound V bag and the lasers, Butcher finally connected the dots. Supes weren't God's chosen. They were factory made by Vought with this shit. Vought deserves to burn in hell, Butcher growled, pulling out a syringe and starting to drain the bag. Ivan stepped up to the incubator and used his analysis ability on the baby. He was only halfway through when two armed guards burst in after getting the alert. The second they saw Butcher stealing Compound V, they opened fire without warning. Ra-ta-ta-ta-ta. Bullets smashed straight through the glass in front of them. Butcher and dove behind a thick stone pillar, guns out. "You gentlemen mind, I'm a little busy here," Ivan said, frowning as bullets hammered into his back. The next second his arms melted into two invisible tentacles and shot forward like spears, punching clean through both guards' chests. He yanked them back and his arms returned to normal. The whole thing took less than a second. The guards never even knew what killed them. "Oi, why'd the shooting stop?" Butcher and glanced at each other, then rolled out in opposite directions, ready for more bullets. Instead they found two corpses with massive holes in their chests. "What the fuck?" Butcher muttered, staring at Ivan's blank face. No doubt about it, this guy had dropped both guards in the blink of an eye. What the hell kind of power was that? Analysis complete. Talent skill. Laser eyes blue. Fusion condition. Absorb 20 milliliters of superpowered infant blood. After fusion, the player can fire extremely destructive lasers from the eyes. Output duration and power level fully controllable. Warning: prolonged use will cause irreversible damage to the player's eyeballs. "Time to go," Ivan said. He reached into the incubator, extended one razor-thin invisible tentacle, and pricked the baby's tiny arm. Once the condition was met, he pulled back and headed for the exit with Butcher and right behind him. At the same time, Frenchie was heading out to grab some groceries when he spotted Black Noir lurking near the safe house. He spun around, dashed back inside, and deadbolted the door. He sprinted down to the basement, already knowing he'd been burned. He called Butcher in a panic. Butcher's answer was cold: "Leave the girl. Save your own ass." Ever since his wife, Butcher had zero love for any supe. Not even a helping supe like Ivan. Their thing was strictly business, pure backscratching, nothing more. "No fucking way," Frenchie snarled and hung up. He walked over to Kimiko, who was still chained up. The thought of leaving her there to die made his stomach turn. He unlocked her chains and set her free. Kimiko stared at him for a second, silent. Then she turned and bolted upstairs. Frenchie let out a long breath once she was gone. 5 minutes later he'd packed everything important into a black duffel and slipped out of the house. He kept his cap low on the street, eyes darting everywhere. Suddenly Black Noir appeared right in front of him. Frenchie dove behind a dumpster, heart hammering, breathing like he'd just run a marathon. A full cup of coffee's worth of time passed. Nothing. He finally crept out. 2 steps later, thud. Black Noir dropped from above like a fucking meteor, landing hard on the car right beside him, armor gleaming. Frenchie stumbled backward as the silent supe advanced. Just as Noir raised a fist, Kimiko exploded out of nowhere and smashed him sideways into the brick wall with bone-crunching force. She shot Frenchie one fierce look that screamed, "Run, you idiot." Frenchie knew exactly how dangerous these supes were. He'd seen it up close before. He hesitated for half a second, then turned and ran like hell. But after a block, he stopped dead, slapped himself hard across the face, and cursed, "You fucking piece of shit, Frenchie." Guilt won. He doubled back. When he reached the spot, Black Noir was already gone. All that remained was Kimiko's mangled, bloody corpse on the ground. Frenchie dropped to his knees beside her, eyes full of pain. He quietly pulled off his jacket and laid it over her body. Then her eyes slowly opened. The wounds across her body started closing right in front of him, healing at a sickeningly fast rate. Late that night, in the backyard of the suburban villa, Ivan stood on the grass, right arm stretched toward a rubber training dummy. A slit opened in his palm and a fresh eye pushed through. The pupil glowed bright blue. Sizzle. A razor-sharp blue laser beam shot out and slammed into the dummy with pinpoint accuracy. It lasted 2 full seconds before cutting off. "Not bad at all," Ivan muttered. "Can't wait to get the red ones too." He walked over to check the damage. The laser hadn't sliced the dummy in half, but it left a deep, smoking burn mark scorched into the rubber. 71. The deep becomes the peak. "That's it, let's see what this thing can do at full power," Ivan said, clamping his hand around the rubber dummy's head. A blinding burst of deep blue light exploded from his palm. The dummy's skull melted instantly, dripping down in thick, gooey strands while black smoke curled upward. The destructive force had more than doubled. The price. The eyeball he'd spent 4 straight days crafting was completely fried. Looks like I need to stockpile a fresh batch of eyes before I dive into the next fantasy world, Ivan muttered. Fusion's still only at 3% anyway. The ruined eyeball popped out of his palm on its own. The raw wound sealed shut in a couple of breaths. Meanwhile, the Deep's Ocean documentary had wrapped without a hitch. The second it dropped, the thing detonated across the internet. Vought poured gasoline on the fire, and the results blew even Madeline's expectations out of the water. In just 2 days the Deep's popularity shot straight up, rocketing past A-Train and Starlight to snag 3rd place in the 7. The numbers kept climbing with zero signs of slowing down. At this rate he looked ready to overtake Queen Maeve and Homelander themselves. Maeve and Homelander were still bleeding support after that plane crash fiasco. Their approval ratings had taken a massive shit, and nothing they did could match the sudden rocket fuel under the Deep. On top of that, word on the street was that the Academy was seriously considering his documentary for the Oscar shortlist. Reason: it actually felt raw and real, and it hammered the ocean pollution angle hard enough to make people uncomfortable. These days if your movie didn't have some preachy, finger-wagging, think about the planet, bullshit, the Oscars wouldn't even wipe their asses with it. Vought Tower. Vice President's office. Madeline's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Yes, what is it? You want the Deep to appear in your film? For the environmental message. Hold on, you're making a goddamn mechamonster movie, right? Monsters can be the result of environmental pollution too. Yeah, that actually makes sense. Talk it over with Vought's operations team. As long as the appearance fee is right, we've got no problem with it. Dozens of those calls had already flooded in since early morning. Madeline's old face was practically split open from grinning so hard. Ever since the plane crash, Vought had been treated like a plague rat. Everyone crossed the street to avoid them, terrified of catching the stink. But the world runs on money, especially in the US of A. Suddenly everyone wanted a piece of the action again. While Madeline was over the moon, Homelander sat in the Seven's conference room looking like he wanted to murder someone. The Compound V mess on top of his popularity nosedive had him in a foul fucking mood. Ashley's gone too far this time, Baruch said, fuming. The Deep project was yours from the jump. Everyone in the company knows it. And what does she do? Swoops in the second it starts paying off and steals it. If it was me, I'd lose my shit. He expected Ivan to join in and rip Ashley a new one. Instead Ivan just sat there sipping his coffee like the guy who'd had the wind ripped out of his hands wasn't him. You know who gets fucked hardest at Vought, mate? Baruch kept going before Ivan could answer. The nice guys. You play too clean and everyone walks all over you. I'm not mad. Why the hell are you? Ivan replied with a lazy smile, his French accent curling around the words. He knew exactly what was happening. Ashley wouldn't have dared snatch the project without Madeline pulling the strings. Last time he got Edgar involved, Madeline must have decided Ivan was the CEO's guy. Now she was squeezing him hard. If he worked in any other department, she couldn't fuck with him so openly. Problem was, public relations answered straight to her. Even the president of Vought couldn't stick his nose in too deep. Man, I don't know how you do it, Baruch said, shaking his head as he headed for the door. Your balls must be the size of the 7 seas. Once Baruch was gone, Ivan spun his chair toward the computer screen. He stared at the upcoming All-Star promo event, the corner of his mouth curling into a sly little smirk. The real fun was only getting started. No one was stealing his credit that easily. Greedy fucks always choke in the end. Congratulations, player. You have slightly altered the original plot and earned 410 fantasy points. Evening rolled around. A light rain was falling over New York. Inside an upscale restaurant on a Manhattan main street, Starlight sat by the window, staring out through the glass like she was waiting for someone. Truth was, the Deep's sudden explosion in popularity made her sick to her stomach. A sexual harassing piece of shit like him didn't deserve any of the praise he was getting. Global Environmental Ambassador, most loving superhero in history. The irony was thick enough to chew. If she hadn't learned from Ivan that he was the one who actually ran the project, she would have gone public and ripped the mask off that creep herself. Roughly 3 minutes later, a man in a sharp suit stepped into view on the rainy Manhattan sidewalk, umbrella in his right hand. He walked straight into the restaurant. Hope I'm not late, Ivan said, shaking the umbrella closed and handing it off to a waiting server. No, you're perfectly on time. Starlight smiled and glanced at her phone. The clock showed exactly the minute they'd agreed on. I heard Ashley stole your deep project, she said once Ivan had sat down and ordered. You want me to step in and do something about it? You trying to comfort me? Ivan asked with a playful smirk, his playful tone wrapping around the words like smoke. Starlight shrugged. Doesn't look like you need it. Yup, I didn't lose shit. The game's barely started, Ivan said, giving a gentlemanly nod as he accepted the drink from the waiter. What are you planning? Starlight frowned. She could already smell something nasty coming. Simple, Ivan replied after taking a slow sip of the honeydew juice. At tomorrow afternoon's All-Star promo event, I need you to blow the lid off the deep sexual harassment bullshit. Starlight stared at him, eyes wide with disbelief. Oh my god, you're fucking crazy. You really want to personally destroy a soup? If Vought finds out, Madeline will bury you alive. In the deep, he'll straight up kill you. Ivan lifted his head and locked eyes with her. His gaze was sharp, cutting straight through. He leaned back, arms folded, fingers laced together, and just watched her in silence. For a second Starlight felt naked, like every dirty little secret inside her was laid bare for him to see. So tell me, Ivan said with a smile, how does it feel getting your ass kicked in popularity by the same piece of shit who pulled his pants in front of you? Pissed off, or just plain fucking humiliated? 72. Terrifying. Thanks for the compliment. Ah, Shri guys for the sudden disappearance. Well, I'm back now. Now isn't this the perfect fucking chance? It helps you and it helps me. But, I can't do that. Madeline will throw me out of the 7. Starlight shook her head. She'd rather keep her cushy spot than rip the mask off the deep. You really don't get her, Ivan said. She can fire any other asshole in the building, but she won't touch a member of the 7. Vought doesn't belong to her. It belongs to the shareholders. Boot you out and the stock price tanks. She can't swallow that kind of loss. Starlight stayed silent for a few seconds. She hated that he was right. Still, it wasn't enough. I don't want to deal with Madeline losing her shit. And what about the deep? You'll piss off both of them. Napkin, please, merci. The waiter passed it over without a word and backed off to a respectful distance. Good staff never listened in on conversations. Ivan tucked the napkin into his collar and smiled. First, as long as you don't open your mouth, nobody will know I'm the one behind it. And even if they guess, who cares? Second, I already talked to the deep. It's the exact opposite of what you think. He's not mad, he's on his fucking knees thanking me. Why? Starlight asked before she could stop herself. Even you're pissed his numbers are exploding. Imagine how the rest of them feel. Ivan sliced off another piece of steak and shoved it into his mouth. Starlight wasn't dumb, she clicked immediately. Homelander. Exactly. At the speed the Deep's popularity is climbing, he might actually pass that guy. You think Homelander will let that happen? So when the Deep realizes he's about to overtake him, ask yourself. Is he scared, or is he fucking terrified? Ivan swallowed the juicy bite and grinned. You planned every bit of this? Starlight stared at him like he was a goddamn monster. Pretty much, Ivan said casually. Starlight still couldn't wrap her head around it. He lifts the Deep up with one hand, then slams him back down with the other. Why? Just for fun? Because he was bored, or is it? For no. Clearly not. One steak wasn't enough to fill his stomach anyway. I get it now, she said, eyes narrowing. Ashley, you're trying to get her fired so you can take over as head of talent and public relations. Ivan wiped the grease from the corner of his mouth with a napkin. Madeline listens to certain people. We made a simple deal. He wants the Deep's numbers to crash and burn. I just want the department chair. Everybody wins. Terrifying, Starlight muttered. Thanks for the compliment. From the plane crash to getting Edgar involved, every single move had been part of his plan. Sure, maybe a bit of main character luck helped, but for Ivan it was just a gamble. Worst case, no real loss, why the hell not try? And once the Deep scandal blew up, it would land a solid punch to Madeline's authority. Because Ivan wasn't stopping at department head, Vought was a very special company. Only directors and above got to mess with supes directly. If he wanted to properly study and fuse their powers later, he needed to climb all the way to the top floor of Vought Tower, looking down on the whole damn city. So, what do you think? Ivan asked after swallowing the last bite of steak. You don't have to overthink it. What you'll lose is nothing compared to what you'll gain. The Women's Protection League has tens of millions of members. Out the Deep and you get all that support for free. Feminism makes for one hell of a useful tool sometimes. Starlight felt like she was staring at Asmodeus from those old tales. A devil specially designed to drag women into sin. Think about it. Starlight bolted out of the restaurant like wolves were snapping at her heels. Ivan watched her back disappear down the street, then lifted his glass and drained the last sip of juice. He knew she'd come around. People like her didn't change their stripes overnight. At the same time, Butcher's crew had scored a major break in their Compound V investigation. Mother's Milk dug up solid dirt through one of his old contacts. Since 1971, a vote-funded outfit called Samaritan's Embrace had secretly shipped Compound V to over 50 hospitals worldwide. Bottom line, no supe was born special. Every last one of them started as a regular human who got jabbed. Starlight too, Huey asked, unable to hide the unease in his voice. He'd been getting closer to her like Butcher wanted. They weren't exactly fucking yet, but things were going pretty well. Yeah, she got the shot just like the rest, said, dropping a fat stack of documents on the table. Everyone except Homelander. I've got files on all of them except him. Nothing on how that cunt became a supe. Good enough. This is already more than we expected, Butcher said, clearly pleased with MM's haul. Frenchie, however, wasn't convinced. Then how the fuck do you explain Kimiko? When we pulled her out, she wasn't in any hospital. She was chained up in a fucking dungeon getting pumped full of V. His words punched a hole in MM's findings. Butcher frowned, trying to connect the dots. One thing was crystal clear though, Vought was neck deep in all of it. Keep digging, see if you can find anything on Kimiko's trail. Butcher turned to Huey. Oi, you're coming with me, we're checking out a spot that might have some answers. Huey followed Butcher to a support group. The members were all indirect victims of supes. Most of them had been saved by a superhero at some point, only to walk away with permanent scars or disabilities that ruined the rest of their lives. So they banded together and made this group. Butcher had known about it for years. Back when Homelander raped his wife Becca and she vanished, everyone assumed she was dead. Crushed by grief, Butcher had wandered into this very meeting one night. 73. Starlight's nuke-like words. Huey and Butcher came up empty at the support group. No decent leads at all. Frenchie, on the other hand, remembered a guy named Mesmer. The supe had a nasty little gift. He could read your thoughts just by touching you. From what Frenchie heard, Mesmer was supposed to pop up at a hero signing event in about a week. This one had nothing to do with Vought. It was a pathetic little gathering thrown together by a bunch of washed-up supes trying to scrape by signing autographs and snapping photos with their dying fanbase for pocket change. Back in the day, before Vought sunk its claws in him, Mesmer helped the NYPD crack a ton of cases and shot to fame fast. But the second they realized he could read minds, Vought came calling. The offer they dangled was pure poison candy. They promised to turn him into the next A train, fame, money, all the pussy he could handle. Mesmer caved and signed the contract. At first it was heaven. The skyrocketing popularity hit like crack. Thousands of people screaming his name, worshipping him. Addictive as hell, but after a while he noticed Vought slowly erasing him. Gigs went from every 2 weeks to every 2 months, then every 6 months, until they straight up buried him in storage. A soup's shelf life is short, especially when fresher meat keeps showing up. Pretty soon the public forgot Mesmer even existed. He tried to quit Vought, but they slapped him with a breach fee so massive it made his balls shrivel. One look at the number and he shut his mouth. He couldn't pay that even if he sold his own asshole. Later, Vought used his power for insider trading on Wall Street. Once they'd milked him dry and stacked their cash, they tossed him aside like a used condom. His name got dragged through the mud, multiple hedge funds sued the shit out of him, his wife divorced him, and he lost custody of his kids. The next afternoon, the All-Star promo event opened on schedule at New York Plaza. Madeline had thrown the whole thing together to wash away the stink left by the plane crash. Homelander went on first. Gone was the usual cocky swagger. Instead he played the charming golden boy, smiling like sunshine the whole time. He waved at the crowd and even shook hands with a guy down in the front row. Homelander, Homelander, the guy screamed, pumping his fist like a maniac. The rest of the crowd jumped right in, roaring his name. Homelander's smile got even brighter. He stepped up to the mic. Welcome, everyone, to the All-Star promo. I'm your headliner today, so fucking glad you're here. Being this close to their idol drove the fans insane. They answered with pure noise. I've been asking myself, why do supes even exist? Homelander said. Then I look at all of you and it hits me. This is why. Keep believing in me. My job is to protect America. Supes exist to keep regular people safe. Madeline, watching on the monitor, gave a satisfied nod. It was rare as hell for Homelander to actually stick to the script she gave him. Looked like the plane crash had finally knocked some sense into the prick. Then Starlight took the stage and Madeline's face froze solid. Starlight straight up dropped the bomb. Right after she joined Vought, she'd been sexually harassed. The whole crowd went dead silent for a second, jaws on the floor. When the tears started rolling down her cheeks, the place exploded. The audience in the square and everyone watching online lost their fucking minds. Starlight, tell us his name. Was it A-Train, or Black Noir? Don't tell me it was Homelander. The crowd was foaming at the mouth, dying to know which supe had stuck his dick where it didn't belong. Ashley, who had planned every second of this event, stood there with her face completely blank, all her careful scripting blown to shit. In front of her screen, Madeline looked ready to burst into flames. If looks could kill through a monitor, Starlight would have been a smoking pile of ash. Meanwhile, back in the green room, the Deep let out a long, shaky breath of relief. He still couldn't forget what Homelander had hissed at him a few days earlier while walking past. Congrats. Looks like your numbers are about to pass mine. Maybe I should hand over the team leader spot to you, huh? The second those words left Homelander's mouth, the Deep felt ice crawl up his spine. That was why, when Ivan came to him with the plan, he'd practically kissed the Frenchman's feet in gratitude. Starlight showing the balls to talk about that disgusting shit she went through. That takes real courage. Respect, Homelander said calmly as he stepped up beside her, acting like her bombshell didn't surprise him at all. He put on a serious face and gave her shoulder a firm pat. I had no idea something like this was happening inside the Seven. I take some responsibility for that. Go on, say his name. I've got your back. Homelander will always stand with you. His little speech earned him a fresh wave of cheers from the crowd. A lot of people started wondering if the plane crash really was his fault after all. No hard proof had ever come out pinning him as the guy behind it. Thank you, Starlight said, glancing at his profile. Then she added, I'm sorry. He just got some success recently. I don't want to ruin that. She turned and walked straight off the stage. Boom. Starlight's words hit like a fucking nuke. Everyone started guessing who the sick bastard was. The story blew up overnight and became the hottest topic online for the next 2 or 3 days straight. After that, Vought International stock, which had been creeping up, started sliding back down. The shareholders wanted Madeline's head on a plate. So, naturally, Ashley got thrown under the bus as the scapegoat. A few days later the scandal was still raging. Just like Ivan predicted, Starlight's brave act won her support from over 10 million women. She got named the new face of the Women's Protection League and even helped Vought slow down the bleeding on their stock price. Vought Tower, Vice President's office. Madeline sat there grinding her teeth, trying to figure out who the hell to put in charge of talent and public relations. Her original plan was to let Ashley hide out for a while, wait for the storm to pass, then quietly slide her back in with some bullshit excuse. But a few of the major shareholders flipped the script and started putting serious pressure on her. They wanted a new department head named yesterday so shit like this wouldn't happen again with nobody in position to handle it. 74. The new department head. Homelander strolled into the office like he owned the place. Madeline glanced up, then went back to staring at the list of possible replacements. If Ivan Greaves wasn't one of Edgar's pets, he'd be the obvious choice. Even she couldn't deny the Frenchman was damn good at PR. I heard you fired Ashley, Homelander said, dropping onto the couch. His laser eyes had already scanned the termination papers on her desk the second he walked in. What about Greaves? I think you should go with him. Madeline's gaze sharpened. I should have known. You weren't going to sit quietly while the Deep's numbers kept climbing. But how the hell did Greaves know Starlight got harassed by the Deep? Who knows? Homelander shrugged, completely unbothered. Maybe he just told her to make something up. Shit like that doesn't need proof anyway. Madeline's chest tightened with rage. Homelander really was the biggest loose cannon in the whole fucking company. Do you have any idea how much damage your little stunt caused? She snapped, voice rising. Ashley got the axe because of this mess. So what? Homelander leaned back. I'm Homelander. I won't allow anyone in this building to get more popular than me. You should be grateful the Deep got lucky. Next time I might not let him walk back into Vought alive. Popularity was his sore spot. The one thing he actually gave a shit about. Fine, forget it. Madeline waved her hand, done arguing. She knew his twisted personality too well. The horrific shit he went through as a kid left him with massive emotional scars. All he craved now was affection and absolute power. Give him more fame, more worship, and he didn't care who he had to fuck over or team up with to get it. Greaves is too clever, hard to control, and he's been cozying up to Edgar. Edgar, Homelander smirked. He's about to retire, Madeline. Keep that in mind. Even if Greaves is one of Edgar's little spies, so what? He's just a normal human. Not even a supe. If I wanted him dead, it'd be easier than stepping on a cockroach. I hope this is the right call, Madeline muttered with a sigh. She picked up the pen and signed Ivan Greaves' name on the appointment document. The next morning, Ivan Greaves received a fax from the president's office before he even finished his coffee. After a meeting with the top brass, Vought had officially appointed him head of talent and public relations. Ivan folded the paper with a calm expression and slipped it into his pocket. With this new title, getting close to supes and fusing their powers would be a hell of a lot easier. Take Homelander's super physique, for example. All he needed was to survive 3 minutes of the guy's attacks without dying. He could have marketing whip up a promo video where his transformed Yuji played the villain. The brief only required him to last 3 minutes. No one said Homelander had to go all out. The only snag was that Homelander might refuse to film it. Getting held off for 3 whole minutes by some random villain would bruise his precious ego. Ivan stepped into the hallway and headed for what used to be Ashley's office. As of that fax, the place belonged to him. Hey, Greaves, congrats on the promotion, man. Drinks on me sometime. No, I should be the one buying. Who said people didn't do favors in networking nowadays? Ivan thought it was the opposite. These people were even more cutthroat. Guys who used to barely nod at him in the halls were now grinning like old buddies, slapping him on the back and acting like they'd always been tight. Morning, sir. Good morning, sir. Morning, Ivan said with the same polite smile he always wore. After greeting everyone, a staffer led him to the new office. All of Ashley's personal shit was already cleared out. Ivan dropped into the big chair behind the desk and started digging through the workflows. Truth was, the actual workload for department head was way lighter than what Ashley made it look like. She just had to micromanage every little thing, so she always ran around like her ass was on fire. Ivan liked keeping things simple. He handed off the small stuff and only steered the overall direction himself. Once everything was delegated, he grabbed a fresh coffee, leaned back in the big chair, and pulled up his panel to check the fusion progress. Laser eyes blue talent fusion in progress. Current progress, 65%. At this stage he burned through 7 vials of compound V every week just to hit his body's limit. Absorption had roughly doubled, so from now on he'd zero in on physique and regeneration powers. Naturally, if something caught his eye and looked worth it, he'd snatch that too. Being too picky just meant starving to death. He'd spent the last few days digging through Vought's internal database, checking out dozens of supes. Most were garbage with no fusion value whatsoever, even if their powers sounded impressive at first glance. Take that one girl who could turn into a ghost. Untouchable, phased through walls, immune to every physical attack. Fatal flaw, she couldn't switch back. Once she went spectral, she was stuck that way for good. Then there were the beast mode guys who lost their minds after transforming, the girl whose only power was controlling shit, the dude who could spit corrosive acid but burned his own mouth every time. Only a small handful had anything close to normal, usable abilities. The best match Ivan had found so far was a supe called Gecko. His power let him numb pain and regenerate lost limbs. Feels pretty close to enhanced healing. Wonder if it can stack, Ivan thought. Based on how the panel worked, unless 2 abilities were exactly the same, they should fuse together and get even stronger. On the other side of town. After talking it over, Butcher and the crew decided to use Mesmer to dig around inside Kimiko's head. Waiting for her to open up on her own could take forever, and they didn't have that kind of time to waste. So Mother's Milk showed up at the washed-up hero signing event and found a pale, chubby Mesmer sitting behind his table. Thanks to all his old contacts in social services, had leverage. He leaned in and made the offer straight up. I can get you 5 minutes with your daughter every month. All you gotta do is one thing for me. Seeing his little girl again was the one thing Mesmer had been desperate for. He didn't even hesitate. He agreed on the spot. 75. Pizza delivery. Meanwhile, Mother's Milk brought Mesmer to the rundown safe house on the outskirts of New York where Frenchie and Kimiko were laying low. Ivan had driven past the place on his way to work and picked up Kimiko's unique signal by pure chance. Every soup gave off a slightly different electromagnetic wave. Ivan could tell them apart just by the frequency. Thanks to Kimiko's enhanced healing, his own strength, durability, and reflexes had all jumped. That boosted his wave detection range from 100 meters to around 200. And the ability kept growing the stronger his will got. He parked a short distance away, transformed into UG, and stood under a tree, silently watching the house. Soon he sensed another soup heading straight toward Kimiko's location. The second walked Mesmer inside. Butcher and Huey pushed open the door right behind them. Butcher spotted Mesmer and flashed a fake friendly grin. "Oi, isn't this the great Mesmer? Big fan, we'll chat later." Then he spun around, grabbed him by the collar, and hissed under his breath, face dark as shit. "What the fuck were you thinking? We need to kill him. Right now." "No, we don't," whispered back. "We made a deal. He keeps his mouth shut, he gets 5 minutes with his daughter once a month. He's just a dad who wants to see his kid." "He's a soup who wants to see his kid," Butcher growled. "You brought him here. What the hell is wrong with you? Your brain's getting dumber than Huey's." Butcher didn't trust any soup, especially one who used to work for Vought. One slip and they were all fucked. Kept trying to defend the guy. Butcher just gave him a tired, pissed-off look. The soup was already inside. Nothing left to do but roll with it. "Let's get this over with," said, nodding at Mesmer. "All right." Mesmer took the girl's hand and focused. "It's a jungle. There's a camp. She's a soldier there. I see a flag, double-headed snake on it." Suddenly, a sharp knock sounded on the front door. The sudden knock froze everyone inside. Butcher's crew went full combat mode. Their eyes met in silent agreement. Frenchie yanked a rifle out from under the couch while drew his pistol and aimed it straight at the door. "Trouble, we bail," Butcher signaled, then crept toward the door with his own gun raised. "Who the fuck is it?" he barked. "Pizza delivery. Any of you order pizza?" Butcher glanced back at the others. All he got were head shakes. "Sorry, mate, wrong house," Butcher started, but before he could finish the sentence the lock clicked and the door swung open. "I missed the part where that's my problem." Ivan stepped inside like he owned the place. Butcher saw it was just the familiar face and lowered his weapon with a sigh. "Jesus, mate, that line's straight out of my old FBI days. Thought Susan sent a team to drag me in." "Carry on," Butcher said, not even bothering to ask how the hell Ivan found them. Pointless question anyway. "Oh, and you mentioned a double-headed snake. Like this." Butcher crossed his hands and made the snakehead shape. When Mesmer nodded, he added, "Red rays behind the flag." Huey looked totally lost. "What the hell is that?" "Shining Light Liberation Army banner," answered, eyes flashing with pure hate. He turned to Frenchie. "Frenchie, your girlfriend's a fucking terrorist." Ivan hadn't expected them to move this fast. They'd already dug up the Shining Light connection. It wouldn't be long before Stormfront showed her face. Her powers were solid and had real potential. Frenchie stared at Kimiko from beside the couch, stunned. "You're a terrorist." Quote. Kimiko just looked back at him with a blank, confused face and puppy eyes. "Bullshit, she can't be a fucking terrorist," Frenchie snapped, refusing to believe it. They'd all been dragged through hell because of a terrorist attack. Butcher's hatred for terrorists ran just as deep as his hatred for soups. "Goddamn it, you need to keep her under control," Butcher growled, clearly losing patience. However, connected the bigger dots. Vought smuggled an extremist terrorist into the country, pumped her full of Compound V. Then once she got her powers they turned her loose to tear shit apart, Butcher picked up. Only fucking Homelander could clean up the mess after. "Why the hell would Vought use a terrorist?" Huey asked, confused. "Because a soup terrorist is way worse than a regular one," Ivan said casually. His real focus stayed locked on Mesmer. The guy's power was genuinely useful, but from what Ivan remembered, he had zero control over it. Touch someone and the mind reading kicked in automatically. No off switch. That made it a double-edged piece of shit. Getting random flashes of an enemy's dirty memories mid-fight would fuck up anyone's focus. He'd only consider fusing it once he figured out how to control the damn thing. Still, right now Mesmer had solid value. He could do everything a doppelganger could and probably more. Vought tossing him aside was straight up stupid. Like killing the golden goose for one shitty omelet. Got a business card on you? Ivan asked. I might be able to get you what you really want. In the original timeline, Mesmer only learned the ugly truth after hugging his daughter. She didn't want to see him. She only showed up out of politeness because the social worker dragged her there. Once he realized his dream was dead, he decided to cash in the only thing he had left, information. He sold out Butcher's crew, took photos straight to Homelander, and demanded fat stacks of cash plus a cushy executive seat at Vought. Read 12 advanced chapters, P at T Captain 69. To be continued.